everybody, it's Kevin Gully, the editor of Carousel Connect, and here we are today on video, and we're talking enterprise video. I'm here today with Simon Dudley of LifeSize, and Simon is the video evangelist at LifeSize, a longtime Carousel partner and a leader in video conferencing and video solutions for the enterprise. Simon, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you getting me involved. It's exciting.
Listen,
Sorry.
Yeah, I was hoping you could take a second, just tell us a little bit about what you do at LifeSize.
Sure. I have the...
What a video evangelist is, yeah.
The grand title of video evangelist. What does a video evangelist do? Well, let me state for the record, I wanted to be the grand poobah, but HR wouldn't let me do it. So I came up with a title that would at least get me remembered. So video evangelist seemed to be it. My job basically is to work with our clients and the press and basically get the story of video communications out there. I generally don't talk about specific products these days, but I've had pretty much every job there is in sales and marketing at LifeSize over the last 9 years that I've been here. So there was the only person really they could think of who could be company spokesman, the random element, the guy who goes out there and talks to customers and tries to make the whole thing a bit interesting.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I'm hoping to have a nice wide-ranging discussion today about some of the trends that you see in the marketplace and how the video space is evolving inside the enterprise. One of the places I thought I'd start is I had a conversation last week with Dan Hofferty from Carousel, who's the head of national sales for our visual communications department. And we had a nice discussion about the trend of BYOD and mobility and how the bring your own device solution is or trend is really impacting businesses, and they're working to adapt. Maybe you can talk a little bit from your seat at LifeSize how businesses are adapting to that trend, especially as it relates to video, and maybe some of the things that they need to make sure that they take into consideration and how to avoid some of the missteps that you see maybe people run into in the past.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. You know what? BYOD, bring your own device, has been really emerging for only about the last year or so. I guess that Apple really kicked the thing off by making the iPad and the iPhone so compelling that everyone turned up to work with them and insisted with the IT department that they either installed this technology or they replaced the IT department. And that hasn't happened really before in technology. So from our point of view, we're really excited about what BYOD can produce because finally we get video to be a mass deployed technology. This sort of room-based video is fantastic, the quality of the experience is wonderful, but at the end of the day, it's a relatively expensive technology compared with an application on a BYOD device. Now, we don't think that BYOD replaces this sort of technology. We think it's an as well as, not an instead of. There's a lot of noise in the industry. Pundits are saying stuff like, oh, well, it's the death of room systems. Well, it isn't, and I'll give you an analogy. If you've got a Netflix account, you can watch Netflix on your iPhone. And in certain circumstances, I will. I could also watch it on my iPad. So if my iPad's with me and my iPhone is not, I'm going to watch the movie on the iPad because the screen's bigger. But if I'm at home and I want to watch a nice big epic movie, I'm going to watch it on my big 55-inch display, not on my iPad. But when on a Southwest plane from San Diego to Austin, for example, last week, I couldn't get that 55-inch display on my lap. It's not going to work that way. So you use the technology that's available to you at the time that you need to use it. And video is just the same. So what you end up doing is you end up with a much larger number of people you can ring, and you end up using the best technology that's available to you at the time. And that's what the promise of BYOD is going to do. And there'll be hundreds of millions of more people to ring. So that network effect is going to be huge.
And what do businesses need to do to be able to take their traditional investment inside of the room-based systems, as you mentioned, and the nice high-def monitors that we have in those rooms now that I'm looking at one of them right now, and be able to translate that to the endpoints that are on a phone, or translate that to an endpoint that's on, an iPad or one of the new, hopefully decent Microsoft tablets that may be coming out sometime, or maybe not.
Yeah, that Slate product looks interesting, at least.
It does.
I think one of the most important things that the video industry has missed for the last 20 years that I've been in it is that you basically had to be such an educated customer. I was on a panel discussion last week at Infocom, and we were talking about it there, and I got quoted in the paper as saying you needed to have a degree in video conferencing to buy video conferencing. because it was a black art. It was all specialist infrastructure and strange products at the endpoints, and IT departments didn't understand it. So one of the things that we think is really important is this concept of turning video communications, and particularly the infrastructure of it, which of course is massively important in a BYOD environment, where the number of endpoints you're going to be dealing with is hugely higher and much less managed. You need to turn that into an application the IT department can get their heads around. And the best way of doing that is to turn it into a VM-sliced app that sits on the servers they've already got, and it would sit next to their Oracle instances or their other applications. And then that way, they could just run it like they do everything else that they do, rather than have to have this black art and these specialists getting involved.
And does that also translate to, for example, the concept of, one of the things we talk about with our customers at Carousel a lot is the concept of not wanting to have to sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater relative to existing room-based systems that they have if they want to extend or expand. And sort of you're sort of seeing the same type of process being put in place for extending room-based systems, maybe keeping the old stuff that they have in place and putting new systems in place and making sure they all play nice together?
Yeah, absolutely. All the major players in the industry, and all of the major players in the industry are standards compliant. So we will interact with Polycoms and Tandbergs or Cisco products as they are today, and most of the other manufacturers absolutely fine. Clients do need to make certain that anything they're investing in is standards-based, because otherwise you don't want to get locked into something that looks shiny and new today, but frankly may not have a future in the, going onwards. So the best thing to think about is with a virtualized infrastructure technology, you can scale it to whatever you want. If you want 17 bridge ports, for example, or 9 video recording applications, then you can have that with a UVC or a VM slice technology. What you can't do is do that with hardware. So we think turning the application into something IT departments understand, which is also nice because they already have the hardware for that, and then being able to reutilize the technology they've already got within their organization is going to be a killer for this stuff.
Absolutely. Now, here's another sort of adjunct to that. I read yesterday in one of my favorite e-newsletters that a report just came out that said the majority of employees for small businesses in 2015 are going to be contract employees working online. Then you add that trend, which is an amazing stat, but if you add that trend to the concept of, in medium and larger businesses, the major telework push that's going on right now, and more people working out of their home and needing to interact with people, you've got a real need to be able to see and interact with people, and video is going to be playing a large part in that. So what kind of trends are you guys seeing in terms of that home office worker, that maybe third-party contract employee that is related to video, and how our business is sort of adapting to that now?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? The first thing I will say is that percentage by 2015 seems, frankly, to me a bit high. But equally, the idea of an office is frankly going away. I mean, look, let's be clear. Offices exist now because they've existed for the last 100 years. And they existed because in the old days, when we, as a society, actually made stuff, the office for the factory would be right next door to the factory. And all the workers in the office would effectively go to, what you could argue is the paper factory, because you didn't have telex machines and typewriters and word processors and all those other and accountancy applications. Didn't have those at home. Well, now we all do. I mean, there's nothing in my office that I don't have here that I don't have in my home office back in San Diego. The only difference is I can walk up the hallway. So I think that trend, and people are beginning to realize that they're driving for an hour to go and use exactly the same technology, often actually inferior technology than the stuff they've already got at home, which is an interesting trend in itself. The next one would be, and this is why we think mass deployable BYOD applications are probably perfect for those home workers, because the other thing I would suggest is they're contractors. They're probably going to end up with multiple employers. So all you do is log them in and out of your organization when you need them. So they will download an app, like we already do this. It can be done with things like ClearSea. You download the app for the App Store, it's free. And then all you have to do is put the credentials in of the organization you're working with that week, month, year, however long you work with them. So users becoming freelancers, very easy, could be done already. We're looking forward to this massive explosion if it indeed happens.
going to be interesting to watch. Now, one of the things that's interesting right now is we're talking on a life-size appliance directly to another life-size appliance down in Austin, Texas. And by the way, it's probably hotter here today than it is down there. It's going to break records. Very nice. So I'm hoping I'm not sweating too much. But the the concept is that we're seeing each other on HD right now, high definition video.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about HD and how important that is in modern video telecommunications.
Well, it's kind of interesting. We started LifeSize just over 9 years ago now, about 9.5 years ago, and I was very proud to say I was one of the first people in the company. I was just below the cut-off line where they made millions after they sold us to Logitech. And I can prove to you that I am one of the people who didn't make the millions on the grounds I'm still here. I wouldn't be doing this if I had $100 million in the bank. But to answer the point, video communications before high definition, which came out in 2006, when we were the first people to come up with it. And before that, the quality of the experience was really very poor. It was very low frame rate, the resolution was tiny. The step change between what we produced in 2006 and the other products available from our competitors at that time was literally 10 times better in the number of pixels in the picture. So one of the reasons we did high def was because I went round, best job in the world, by the way. I went round and asked a whole bunch of end users what they actually wanted to buy. Otherwise, you end up with what the engineers think is cool. And engineers always think that the combination coat hanger cigar lighter is the best thing in the world. And
more features is better, right?
Yeah, more features is better. Let's put more stuff in. Well, no, actually. It's funny, it's a very interesting point that most people think that a product or anything that does one thing is going to be better than something that does multiple things. That's why one of the reasons Google was such a successful search engine was not only did the algorithms work well, but people thought it was a single appliance. Well, it only does that. It must be great at it. Anyway, back to the story about high-def video. So I went around and asked loads of people what they thought. So one of the most telling conversations I had was with a big customer who, not of ours, we didn't have a product at the time, but of our competitor's product, or who would be our competitors. And I asked him, what do you think of video conferencing? And he had about 500 video systems globally, by the way, and an enormously dispersed financial organization. And he sat there and went, video conferencing is an important tool and we use it extensively. And I said, what do you really think of it? He goes, it's rubbish and everyone hates it. And I said, why? And his response was very telling. He said, if the meeting matters, I'll come and see you. If the meeting doesn't matter, I'll get you on the phone or I'll send you an email. That's how everyone does business. And I said, well, okay. Now, we borrowed rather a lot of money at this point. And he just pointed out that the whole video business was now defunct. And I went, oh, well, what do we need to do to make the quality, to make the experience good enough that you would use it? And he said, cut a hole in the wall of my office and give me a glass window to another place. The quality of the experience needs to be as if the person is just looking through a window to another location. If you achieve that and you make the technology go away for the users, then we'll invest. That would be useful. Otherwise, I'm on the phone or I'll send you an email. And what we achieved, and not every customer felt this, but 98%, 99% of customers, once we showed them high-def video, went, that's what we've been waiting for.
That's what we want. It's funny, the first time I was on an HD video conference call, I was speaking to somebody and it was raining cats and dogs in the background and there was people walking through the parking lot and their umbrella was blowing over and I was intrigued by what was going on behind them. It's a totally different experience, so I can see that. Now, with that said, for businesses that don't necessarily have HD video conferencing at this point and may want to invest in and see the value in that, what kind of infrastructure needs to be in place, especially if we're talking about those additional hundreds of thousands and millions of endpoints that might be available?
Sure.
What do the businesses need to do and make sure is in place to be able to support and prioritize and manage HD to avoid jitter and packet loss and all kinds of different things?
It's an interesting question and a huge answer. I could be here for the rest of the week telling you what they...
No, give me... No,
but
maybe I was too big of a question.
I will give you the 50,000-foot view. So a few misconceptions perhaps to lay to rest. Video conferencing over the internet, assuming you have a decent should we call it, on-ramp to the internet is perfectly fine. In my experience, the only people who really think that an MPLS network or any kind of dedicated IP channels are required are the kind of people who are selling MPLS networks. The backbone of the internet truly is good enough now for video. I mean, this call is on video. He's on the internet. This video call's on the internet.
Right.
Every call I make's on the internet. I've been doing this all around the world for 7 years at high def. It's perfectly good. So that's the first thing to put to rest. The second one is, if you're a mid-sized business and you want to, or a smaller business, and you want to try dip your toe into video, one of the things to consider is get some technology that allows you to have somebody else manage the infrastructure for you. And there's a number of those. We do one of them. It's a product called Connections, but other people do it as well. So you can dip your toe in the water by either outsourcing the services to an organization and simply buying video, plugging it into the internet, and away you go in your own office. And that's become very simple. One of the things we've been pushing for a long time is make it easy to buy, easy to sell, because more people can then sell it and more people can then buy it. And so from that point of view, it's become less sophisticated or more sophisticated but easier. And then if a client is looking to do the infrastructure themselves, well, traditionally it's been these black art big boxes that sit in servers that you don't really understand anything about, because they're completely different to everything the IT department has been involved in. So what we're now getting to is the angle of using VM slices that IT departments are already extremely familiar with, and it gives them the opportunity to even experiment with the technology before they buy it. You can test it all for 30 days, test each of the segments, and then if you like it, you buy it. And it's simply give us a 25-digit key and away you go. So that's going to make the whole world much simpler and much more scalable.
So one last question for you. Obviously, you're seeing more systems in place. A lot of them are still in conference rooms, but video is becoming ubiquitous all over the place. End users, employees, they use it every day. They're familiar with it. They expect it in a lot of different ways. From your seat at LifeSize as the video evangelist, how are you seeing businesses taking advantage of video besides just video conferencing? What are they doing? Are they utilizing it in training situations? How are they taking advantage of these systems they have in place? What are the trends you're seeing, and where is real momentum being gathered in different ways of using video?
You know what? I do a lot of talks about mega trends in industry and in our industry, and one that's really coming to the fore to me is, and it's a noticeable trend, is the death of written documents. People don't write long documents anymore. When was the last time, and think about it yourself or any of the audience, when was the last time you read a report that was more than 4 or 5 pages long? And what businesses appear to have done, and maybe probably by accident over the last 100 years, is make working in the office and learning new things as boring as possible. I don't quite know why they've done it, but we've got to the point where most of the technology that to learn how to do something new, we seem to make it as dry and as dull as possible. Now, we don't do that for kids. Kids learn through play. But somehow, as soon as you get to a certain age, about 11 in most of our societies, then all the fun stuff goes away, and now it's just grinding out a result. And I think that video is part of the capturing back the idea that you can learn through play. And that seems to be a dirty word in the adult. Well, you can't have fun in the office. Why not? I mean, you're there more than you are with your own family. You might as well enjoy it. And more importantly, you learn better through play. Now, people don't call it play, they call it simulation. But the biggest training organization in the world is the US DoD. Not really surprisingly, they are now fully into the idea of teaching their soldiers through play, or through simulation, as they would call it. I guess you don't really want to play war, not if you're actually in the army, so they do use the word simulation. And I think that that's going to be an incredibly powerful tool moving forward. The other trend, which video, again, helps with, is the idea that we're now beginning to get to the point where everyone is moving so fast and the world is changing so quickly that the top of the business doesn't necessarily know all the answers. And in fact, it's the people on the ground who actually do the work who are becoming the experts, or are the experts. There's no sort of senior management expertise anymore. So what happens is that you're much more useful to learn any new skill set from your peers. And video communications is a fantastic way of connecting with your peers who are likely to be, if they do the same job as you, probably in a different location. So using video to connect groups together so they can group learn, and this whole idea of unstructured learning is becoming another mega trend. And I think that that's something video helps with dramatically.
Well, you're probably right, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things continue to evolve in that. Gamification, simulation, all that kind of stuff I think is going to be really exciting. And high definition meeting with people through a window in your wall is pretty cool too. So Simon, thanks for your time today. This has been Simon Dudley with LifeSize. You can find out more about their products and their company at lifesize.com. And stay cool down there in Austin, Simon.
108 on Monday. Looking forward to that.
Sounds nice. Take care.
Thank you, Kevin.